The story of a daughter who dares to go against her father's will. The story of how Lisa, the daughter of a powerful businessman, defies fate by falling in love with a rival and putting her career and family relationships on the line. A thrilling fight for her dreams and a tense confrontation with her father lead to triumphant victory at the competition and finding true happiness. I was sitting behind the bar at one of New York City's prestigious corporate events. The party was at a fancy restaurant in Manhattan, and the guests included some of the most influential figures in American business. As the daughter of a famous entrepreneur, I often attend such events, and all this talk about contracts, investments, and mergers has always fascinated me. But today the feeling of boredom and fatigue literally came over me. Suddenly I felt a slight nudge on my shoulder. When I turned around, I saw a young man with a confident smile and an attentive gaze. He handed me a glass of wine and introduced himself as Max. I took the glass and looked at the stranger appraisingly. His appearance was quite ordinary for the world of corporate New York. Perfectly fitted suit, neat haircut, but in his eyes, I could read something more than a simple desire to make business contact. I introduced myself and tried to hide my surprise. Max explained that he worked in a similar field. His company was developing software that helped other companies to work more efficiently. I was interested in this as our areas of expertise overlap. Max expressed interest in discussing the details of our work. At that moment, my father, John, approached us. A tall, broad-shouldered man with a firm gaze, he instantly assessed the situation. Upon learning that Max was the founder of a startup called Innovative Solutions, my dad pointed out that the company had recently entered the market and had already made a name for itself. John's gaze expressed respect, but also a slight note of distrust. Like any experienced entrepreneur, he knew that competitors could become either allies or enemies. Max shook my father's hand and emphasized that I was very smart and driven, adding that we had a lot of topics to discuss. Dad hummed, reminding me that in this business, it's all about connections and reputation, and hoped that Max's company wasn't going to infringe on our interests. Max assured him that they only wanted to offer the marketplace and suggested we leave the job talk until next time, since today was a holiday. The atmosphere lightened and I spent the rest of the evening with Max discussing a variety of topics, including the latest technological innovations and hobbies outside of work. By the end, I realized that Max was much more interesting than I had expected. Several weeks passed before I met Max again. This time our meeting happened quite by chance as I was walking down the street after a day of work. When I saw him from afar, I wanted to pass him by, but then I decided to approach him. As I got closer, I noticed that Max smiled at the sight of me. We talked a little about the day, and I felt comfortable around him. It felt like we understood each other without saying anything. Max offered to have coffee, and I agreed. The coffee shop turned out to be a cozy place with soft light and subdued music. We chose a table in the corner and ordered a cappuccino. The conversation quickly turned to professional topics, and I began to share my ideas for improving our company. I explained that I had thoughts on how to improve the efficiency of the project management system, and if we implemented some changes, the result could improve by 20%. Max listened attentively, sometimes asking questions and suggesting his own solutions. It became obvious that we both have similar views on business development, although our approaches differ. Max praised me, saying that I was really talented and that he liked my approach. He added that I could do a lot if I got serious about it. I blushed at the compliment, but tried to remain calm. Then Max leaned forward and, looking me straight in the eye, suggested that I think about creating my own project and enter the contest. He said that I had the potential to go to the next level. Those words got me thinking. Before, I had never thought about leaving my father's company and starting my own business, but now the thought was becoming more and more appealing. The next day I came home later than usual. Dad was in his office, absorbed in reviewing documents and talking on the phone. When I entered, he raised his head and stared at me intently. I tried to hide my excitement and told him I was working on a project and wanted to share some ideas. My father frowned and asked for details. Told him about my meeting with Max and how we discussed possible improvements to our company. My father's reaction was unexpected and negative. He resented me spending time with competitors discussing our company's projects and said it was unacceptable. John warned me that if I continued with Max, I could lose my inheritance and my place in the company. I was scared. I'd always known my father was a tough man, but I'd never thought he was capable of such a thing. Still deep down, I knew I wasn't ready to give up my ambition and my feelings for Max. The following weeks passed in suspense. I continued to see Max, but I did it in secret, afraid that my father would find out. Our conversations got more and more, and soon we started planning a joint project. The idea was to create a new software product that could combine the best practices of both companies. But one evening when I returned home, I unexpectedly ran into John on my doorstep. He looked worried and agitated, as if something important had happened. "Lisa," he began abruptly and coldly, "I know everything. You're dating Max and you're planning a joint project. Our competitors have already informed me of everything. I'm not going to let this go on. You have a choice. You stay with your family and continue working for our company, or you leave and lose everything." I froze in place, unable to find the words. My heart was racing, but I couldn't believe what was happening. My father had never spoken to me like that before. He turned and walked back into the study, leaving me alone. That night I sat alone in my room for a long time, contemplating my situation. I knew that father was a man of principles, and his anger was real. But I also knew that my feelings for Max and our project together meant too much for me to give up everything to please him. Late that night, as the house fell into silence, I made up my mind. I wrote a short note, thanking my father for everything he taught me, but stating that I was leaving to follow my dreams. Then I packed up and left the house, leaving the note on the desk in his office. In the morning, John discovered the note. After reading it, he silently left the house, heading out for a morning jog to get his thoughts in order. John remained steadfast but allowed me to leave. That evening of the same day, I went to Max's house. I knew that the decision I would make would be one of the most important decisions of my life. As I entered his office, I noticed that he immediately sensed my anxiety. Max walked closer and asked me what had happened. I sat down on the couch and took a deep breath, informing him that my father had found out about our meetings and demanded that I stop all contact with him or I would lose my inheritance and my job at the company. Max listened to me in silence, then sat down next to me and took my hands. He said he understood how hard it was for me, but he believed in me and in our project. He reminded me that we had an opportunity to do something significant together, to enter the competition, and I had to choose between supporting my family and my own dreams. I closed my eyes, gathering my thoughts. I knew the choice would be difficult, but in the back of my mind I had already made my decision. Saying quietly that I was choosing Max, I opened my eyes and looked at him. I expressed my confidence in the project and in our ability to succeed. Max hugged me and kissed me tenderly, suggesting that we start building our future together, overcoming any difficulties. The following months became some of the most difficult in my life. The relationship with my father had almost completely broken down. Eventually, my father carried out his threats. He stopped talking to me and officially disinherited me, fired me from the company and stripped me of all my livelihood. I was left alone without a job or family support, feeling betrayed and abandoned, but I didn't give up. I continued to work on my project, hoping that one day things would change for the better. Max was the only one who supported me in a difficult moment. He offered help and support, helped me find a temporary job, and continued to believe in the project and winning the competition. Despite all the difficulties, we continued to work together, striving to make my dream a reality. We finalized the project and applied for participation in a prestigious startup competition. But my father had no intention of giving in easily. He started obstructing us at every step. He spread rumors among entrepreneurs about my incompetence and did his best to prevent me from entering the competition with my project. He used all his connections and influence to try to discredit the project and derail its success. Nevertheless, I did not regret my decision. The long-awaited day of the contest finals came. I was very nervous, I was literally shaking. But Max helped me to concentrate and present our project with dignity. In front of the jury, we demonstrated the results of our labor and received high scores. By unanimous decision of the jury, our project was recognized as the winner of the contest. Coming down from the stage after the awards presentation, I noticed my father standing in the doorway with a serious look. He never came up to me. When it was over, I looked back, but he was gone. A few months after winning the competition, I started my own company and began to actively develop my business. My firm was rapidly gaining popularity, the Max project was in demand, and I was able to show my father that I could succeed on my own without his help. One evening, as I sat in my office, thinking about the future, the door opened and my father walked in. I froze, expecting another argument, but instead my father walked over to the desk and sat across from me. He looked me straight in the eye. He started his confession by saying that he had been overly strict and didn't realize how important this project was to me. Now he saw that I was making progress and he was proud of me. I could hardly believe what I was hearing, but I held back my tears, trying to keep my composure. My father got up and walked to the window, looking out at the cityscape. He remembered how he himself had started from scratch and emphasized how important it was to believe in yourself and your strength. Expressed joy over the right choice and my success. After that conversation, the relationship between us began to slowly recover. Max and I continued to develop our project, and our company was steadily gaining momentum.